What's up, lore masters? Today we'll be analyzing the DS9 episode, Behind the Lines. There are effectively two plots here, but we'll be focusing on the one that was meant to be the entire story and actually important. The other one was, I'm sure, there due to contractual obligations, as it doesn't really give us much. The B-plot, the one we won't be focusing on, is effectively Ben Sisko being made adjutant. Dax is given command of the Defiant, and they're tasked with taking out a sensor array. This array apparently has been providing the location of all Starfleet ships to the Dominion. And we know that because it was so critical to the plot, we've never had any clue of its existence in the past, never been given any reason to think that the Dominion knew where Starfleet was at all times, and don't even see the battle where they destroy the vital Dominion asset. You can be assured that I literally put as much effort into that subplot as the writers did. I will take a moment to pause and highlight something that was a nice touch in it, though. When we first see Sisko in charge of the Defiant, O'Brien brings a used power cell from the phaser array and gives it to him. He then makes a speech about fighting and that you don't throw something like that away, and it's a symbol of what they were fighting for. He places it on the wall like a trophy. The tradition is kept by Dax, and it's interesting to see how she gives the speech. It's the same but different. It's a really nice way to see how command changes, but things stay the same. And again, the only part worth noting in the entirety of that plot. So let's move on to the important part of the episode. Before I delve into the Resistance's failure to be, well, good little terrorists, I want to take a moment to question their command structure. From what we observe, there doesn't appear to be someone in charge. Certainly Odo and Kira appear to be senior in the discussion, but it's ran like a democracy. Unfortunately, that's not the best way to run a small organization where it's key that everyone is on the same page. I mean, it's crazy we see them ultimately failing. It just boggles the mind that this kind of structure wouldn't work. Regardless, the first time we observe the terrorist cell in action, their operation appears wildly successful. Through a fortunate turn of events, Rom is able to get a data pad that discusses the possibility of poisoning the Ketracel White and killing off the Jem'Hadar with the last batch. This, of course, if they can't find a way to secure more of the White and that's all they have left. Again, it never appears to be an issue for the Dominion. We never see them actually run out of White, but it's still something that is said in dialogue. The Jem'Hadar find the pad, due to Rom, and of course, being regimented, brainwashed machines that are disciplined, go and confront Damar, and a fight occurs. This would push a small divide between the Jem'Hadar and the Cardassians on the station, even though we never see them actually have any problems. Again, we're more told there are problems than we're actually shown. Whether you're making websites as a hobby, doing it for a friend, or need something more professional for your business, Hover.com has got you covered. They don't try to get you with gimmicks like programs to make you build a site, then try to sell you something every time you call in. Nor do they try to use sexy girls to get your attention. Well, obviously. Go to hover.com/lore reloaded to get 10% off your first purchase. The orchestrated attack in Quarks creates discord between Odo and Kira. Odo stating that the risk wasn't worth the small gains in disunity, and Kira obviously thinking that the risks were worth it. Additionally, Odo is upset because he said they shouldn't do it, and after he left the meeting, they all agreed that they would do it. The fight would be pretty pronounced until the arrival of the female changeling, who would change everything. Let's pause a moment too. While I couldn't find enough material specific to the Dominion War to do a breakdown on it, I do want to briefly speak about the events in DS9's Sons and Daughters. In the episode, Kira is effectively tempted in the same way that Odo is. Ziyal is brought back onto the station, and through Ziyal, Dukat and Kira begin to work together a lot better, and she even begins to lessen on her hatred for him and the Dominion. However, when Kira realizes what she's become, the path that she is going down, she turns away. Looking back to this episode, Behind the Lines, Odo is tempted and would not make the same decision, but we'll get into that a bit later. After the argument between Kira and Odo, the terrorist cell meets again and is wholly inefficient. Now it feels like they all have to agree before moving forward. However, the conversation is completely changed when a drunken Quark stumbles in, telling them that the Cardassians have figured out a way to deactivate the minefield. This would cause a stir, and the cell would have to figure out how to stop them. Ultimately, they would find a way to tech their way out of the problem. Though, Here's a question. Even if we assume they are able to disable the deflector array, what's going to stop the Cardassians from fixing it? They have no follow-up plan after disabling the thing. This is just acting on emotion. Would they just keep trying to disable it until, what, ad infinitum? Starfleet is losing, so there's no hope of help from them, so what's going on? What are they doing? Also, the Dominion would be able to eventually set up security to prevent them from moving forward. I know that it's likely they're running on emotion and would figure something out after they stop the initial attempt. It's just that the plan is too simple, and let's get into that for a moment. Rom would basically access the EPS feed and overload the systems. Odo then disables any alarms for 5 minutes by running a security diagnostic. So, again, this plan is ill-conceived. While Odo shares some god status that would ultimately save him, the security diagnostic being run at the exact same time and impacting the exact same area is too convenient. Even if the Dominion backed off, the Cardassians would never trust Odo again, and they'd be shut out of any future attempts when it comes to utilizing Odo to help the Resistance. You could argue that they were out of options, and maybe they were, it's just unfortunate. And alas, Kira wouldn't realize that Odo is basically the incel of the Great Link, and so once a founder cutie walks up and shares her liquid with him, he'd become useless and not care about anything else. Due to this, Rom is captured when he attempts to access the conduit, which would have alarms all over it. This, of course, destroys the relationship between Odo and Kira, something that would take a long time to repair. And ultimately, that's how the episode would end. The minefield would be coming down, Rom would be executed, and the terrorist cell was broken on Deep Space Nine. I know this is a bit of a shorter one, but again, it's a bridge that does need to be discussed. All in all, everything was coming up Milhouse for the Dominion. Of course, things would be much more complicated in the near future. Stay tuned as we get into the final push for the retaking of Deep Space Nine.